You should be used. Be used to the bright lights coming from NFL world. Are we on? Did I ask that already?
I don't think you asked anything.
Are we recording?
Oh, you asked if we were recording. Yeah, we are.
What's your intro music?
We're 5 minutes and 21 seconds.
Oh, shoot. Ba-da-da-da, under the influence. Doo-doo. There you go. I'm working on it. I'm going to have people vote. Welcome. Episode 3. By popular demand, we're back under the influence with our special guest. Would you like to introduce our guest today, Jacob?
I think since he's our first guest, I think you should do it.
Oh, wow, how chivalrous.
I'm biased.
So we have in the Under the Influence house today, Raonall Smith, former NFL player, more importantly.
Which his name was Randall?
No, there's no D. And now every time someone says, hi, my name's Randall, I'm like, you're saying it wrong. But more importantly, Washington State University alum and legend as well, Raonall Smith. Yay!
I'll put an applause in. You don't have to.
Well, I'm just trying
I
to.
think it'll sound awesome.
And also currently working with you.
Yeah, I work with one of my best friends. This is probably going to be one of my favorite episodes. There's a few things. I get to do this with two of my favorite people, and
I'm the second one, right?
yeah, you can be first now.
Woohoo!
Yeah, you're with child. Mm-hmm. That brings you up right.
I can't do that for you.
We tried. So yeah, Smitty, we work together. I want to get into that a little bit. I'm also going to make a public disclosure about my podcasting.
Okay.
I listened to the first 2 episodes. That's a hard thing to do. I'm doing it because I want to get better at it. I listened to a couple tutorials, and like journalists do it a lot. Go back and listen to themselves or broadcasters, and I hated it.
Yeah, it's not fun in the music realm either. But you get used to it, and it's a tool.
So you're telling me I'm going to have to come back here and do it again?
Probably.
Yeah.
All right.
But,
hey,
we'll
Super
go
Bass,
easy on
pull
you.
your mic in a little
Oh, my
bit.
bad.
No,
We're
you're
gonna
fine.
probably have to come back and do it again.
No, it'll turn out great.
Anyways, but you two have a pretty unique story. It goes way back before the business days we find ourselves in currently, correct?
Yeah, we've known it's like 30 years almost.
Close
Oh
to
my
it, yeah.
gosh, you
I
guys
know
are
it's
so
weird to
old.
even say that things exist that long.
Yeah.
Not quite that long. Probably 25.
So where did you guys meet?
Really, beginning of high school. Like we went to the same middle school, but about the time I was getting there, Randall was leaving, and we weren't really that close until after high school. But we were definitely get me in a lot of trouble. And
Was he already balling out? Like people knew he was NFL bound? Randall, what do you think?
No, not at that point.
Okay.
I mean, I think when you were a 150-pound sophomore and watching him destroy people, it was obvious that he was doing other things. But I don't think. Well, you're young. That's what I think. What most people don't realize is that you're 2 grades ahead of me, and we're the same age.
Yeah. I was 17 when I graduated, and I think most people were 18, 19.
Dang, why is that? Do you have an early birthday or you're just super smart?
Birthday's in late October. I'm do well in school.
Okay.
I did well in school, but I started early. My folks were in the military.
Okay.
So I lived in England for a number of years when I was
What?
a kid.
I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
ever so big.
Yeah.
Did you have an accent?
Yeah.
What?
Oh yeah.
That's so
There's
cute.
a tape circulating around somewhere in my mom's house. Yeah.
No
Yeah.
way.
Can't
I'm
find
kind of
it,
sad you don't have it anymore.
but I know, me too.
You'd have killed it.
I know,
You'd have
man.
killed it with that.
Oh yeah.
As if the deck wasn't already stacked.
Seriously, it's a good. That's
But,
God
yeah.
evening it out.
Yeah.
Taking your accent away.
But we moved to the States when I was 6 years old, and then tested into school and just kept on that path for.
They bumped him
whatever
up
reason.
a couple grades and held serve on that for the rest of.
Yeah,
All right.
despite trying to get back a grade or 2. Just
Really?
due to age, yeah, but they just
They're
can't
like,
you
"No,
can't
can't do
redshirt
it."
in middle school and high school, so you gotta just roll with the punches, right?
All right. So, do you guys remember the first time you met each other?
It would have just been a bunch of overlap at school.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was always really busy.
How are you going there?
For our listeners, you can't see the gleam in Jake's eye when he said that.
I was more worried about his wife than anyone else. But
Who is a saint, by the way.
Oh,
yes, she
by
is.
far, yeah.
Anyway, no, we had overlap like in football, but we were two totally separate
Yeah.
worlds. Randall was setting it on fire, and I was trying to figure out whether or not I was even going to stay on the team. So like sophomore year is the worst for any athletes, man. You can't play C team or freshman stuff really, and you're not getting shine anywhere else. Especially as a quarterback, it would have been my biggest nightmare to actually play.
I agree with you. I did myself the favor and didn't play my sophomore year. So,
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. All this football glory, and he did. He
Ugh. See, this is why you don't have an accent. Okay, so what was the decision there to not play? Did you play once you moved to the States? Were you in sports growing up?
Yeah, I played baseball, basketball. Played football 1 year in 7th grade. Didn't play 8th grade. Played again in 9th grade. Our team was horrible.
Really?
We were getting pummeled. I was a 5'7" running back, getting lit up. Our offensive line couldn't block anybody. I was getting the ball and getting walloped as soon as I got touched. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
And sophomore year, I was pretty much the same size, like 5'8" maybe. And then I grew towards the end of my sophomore year a little bit. And then my junior year, our head coach called up my mom. He was like, hey, we trying to get Randall on the football team. And what do you think about talking to him about that? And at that time, I think I was about 6'2".
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'll give it a try.
Yeah.
And that was the start of my high school career.
So was that when everything kind of came together? Tell me about like once you were like, I'm taller now. I feel like I can take a couple hits. And did you go onto the field and did it click? Or was it a while before you're like, okay, I'm into this now?
Well, I was just kind of doing it because everybody else is playing.
Yeah.
I was just out there to just have fun and have a good time. I mean, my focus was trying to be, in baseball. That was kind of my first love. Yeah, I really enjoyed playing the game of baseball.
Yeah, he was a good baseball player. Bastard's pretty much good at everything. It's a hard friend to have.
Yeah. It's good he's so awful looking. That'll really even it out.
So, just was doing it to pass time until basketball season and then baseball. But ended up playing decent my junior year, and our coach was pretty proactive in sending out letters to some of the colleges and whatnot, and started getting some interest. And all of a sudden, recruiting letters came in, and I was like,
might have a shot.
Might be an opportunity to get some school paid for free.
So it was everyone else and your coach really that propelled you forward into your career.
Yeah, I mean, I had pretty much. I have to give a lot of
you didn't do.
I didn't.
You're right. I have to give a lot of credit to my mom and dad for sure.
But obviously you
but
played.
Then Bill Stout was definitely a guy that I admire a lot and did it.
And did that, when you started to get looks from colleges and stuff, did that override your desire to play baseball, or were you still about baseball?
Oh no, I was about baseball. It came down to my senior year after the season was over. There was a coach for Gig Harper, our arch rival, who was also a scout for the Twins. And he asked me if I wanted to go to Japan and play summer league ball. And, it was either go to Japan and work out for doing baseball or lift weights and give myself a shot at actually trying to compete in the college level, because you just can't show up not out of shape and weak. I mean, high school weight room was not going to do the trick. So
that's where being young comes back into full circle. Is you're 2 years younger and you're headed off to as a 17-year-old kid to go play D1 football on a full ride. Like that was a tall order,
right?
And it actually found a pretty solid workaround.
Yeah. So we were actually discussing this today in our meeting. I was the first gray shirt in Pac-10 history. So gray shirting means I was 17 when I graduated, and they wanted me to be 18 when I enrolled. Well, since my school, I wasn't 18 until the end of October. They gave me the option to come in the spring semester. So I was able to come in the spring, play spring ball, and then I was able to go and do an entire year of football, and then do another spring before I was before my eligibility.
So basically, you just get all that training
like
and
2 year
practice.
Running start, and just come in.
Yeah. So I was 19 essentially when my clock started running, which was a 2 years, a year and a half for me actually.
Did you ever? Was the Japan thing? Was that ever enticing to you, or you were like, I'm not about it?
It was more so, hey, if you go do that, you could probably go play JC ball for a year or two. And
Yeah,
then,
there wasn't a
bump it up. There was no
guarantee.
guarantee. And hey, no one's going to go, you know what, we're going to give you scholarships and pay for your school for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put myself or my family at the time in a situation where I'm going to go
Right.
chase a dream that might not ever happen.
Yeah.
To, something that was guaranteed.
So what brought you to the best decision, one of the best decisions of your life, attending Washington State University? Go Cougs.
No, for sure. Majority of it, a couple of things. I really enjoyed the.
Randall's a busy guy. His
He is a
phone's
busy
going
guy.
off.
On a subset of that, I did not wear my WSU sweatshirt because with true alumni here and knowing you would both be wearing Coug gear, I just couldn't
this
do
was
it.
just by accident. I think
Yeah.
I was totally Couged out like you earlier, but you got gray
did
on.
good. Yeah.
You're an honorary.
Okay.
So, Randall, I have a question for you
Yeah.
about when you got to Pullman. Was there a point where like you expected it? Did you feel like in high school like you balled out enough where you're like you felt like you were in the mix, or were you like feeling younger than everybody else and wondering how the hell this was going to shake out?
No, typically, like I said, spring ball, I was able to go out and prove myself relatively quickly. So
Yeah.
they kind of threw me to the wolves because they wanted to see what I was all about. And
Yeah.
I played well. And it got to the point where they wanted to take my red shirt away from me, and I was put on red alert going into the season.
Red shirt to red alert.
Yeah.
Woo-woo.
So I was traveling with the team, and it got to the point where I started getting nervous. Like, oh man, they might throw me in a game here.
Yeah.
And we were killing it at the time. We were like undefeated, 4-5-0, and I'm like, they're gonna throw me in just for
See what
shits
happens,
and giggles,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if I'm. And so it happened. We were in Illinois, traveled to Illinois, playing the University of Illinois. Game is out of hand. We were up like 2 touchdowns or something like that. Like half a minute left in the fourth quarter, and Steve Gleason gets hurt. He's 2 guys ahead of me on the depth chart. So he's the starter, and then there's another guy, and then me. And the guy in front of me got hurt.
Oh
and
my
Jim
gosh.
Zekas was my outside linebacker coach, and is screaming my name like bloody murder on the sideline. And I have no helmet on me. It's somewhere behind the bench somewhere. My shoulder pads aren't strapped up. My socks are down on my ankles, and he's screaming at me to get in the game. I'm like, oh damn!
You're gonna burn your red shirt.
Burn my red shirt for
over-
15 seconds of playing time where nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah, you got to put the long snapper out there.
Yeah. So I find Kenny, and Kenny's like, I got you. I'm gonna go in there.
Kenny who?
Kenny Moore.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Kenny Moore. He had a bum ankle or something like that, and he walked out on the field, and took the snap and left me have my red shirt. And I still had, and the reason
That
why
could have reshaped your whole entire career.
it really could have. And the funny thing about it is I wasn't even healthy at the time. I had a bum ankle from playing summer basketball like 2 weeks before training camp, and rolled my ankle. I think Dylan Hearn or something like that.
He's listening right now. I guarantee it. Yeah, he listens a lot. He loves. He's one of. He was like the first person to catch on.
Really?
He like probed me to do this like 6 or 8 months ago. Said,
Okay.
if you ever do this, I want to listen to it. And that was kind of part of the motivation. So shout out to Dylan.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think we're at
That's
the Gig
funny.
Harbor Athletic Club, and I rolled my ankle playing summer ball, and I couldn't even walk. And I called up the coaches like a week before
Shoot.
training camp, and I was like, I can't move. And he's like, you get here as soon as possible to get yourself in good shape, and we're ready to go because you're going to go play this year. Well, we got back to Pullman after that Illinois game, and I got read the riot act. He read me the riot act. Coach Price called my mom and dad, said, hey, we didn't bring him here to be on a biology scholarship. He's here to play football.
Yeah, Price was an ass. I mean, he might have been a good coach. I didn't, but he was a crude man.
Yeah. he had some very crude jokes for
Yes.
sure. Yeah, but he's a good man. He's a good man.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I was like, "Listen, guys, we're 6-0. I'm not gonna play. We got Steve Gleason, who's ahead of me. Another
Right.
guy who's a senior, who's ahead of me. I don't want to go down and run down the field and for a kickoff or two to blow my red shirt and who knows?
Well, if you just cut your senior year out of the equation, what does it look like? Could be the same. I'm just saying, but
could
it's
be the same, but
totally
it's definitely
different.
a different.
Yeah.
I mean, my junior year wasn't as good as my senior year, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I mean, I could have been drafted, or I could have been a free agent.
Well, you could have had 5-6 games of experience, which could have put carry. I'm just saying, like it definitely played a role.
Sure,
Yeah.
it did play a role. Yeah.
So when did you burn it? When was your first time in the game?
The first time in the game was actually the next year we played the University of Illinois, opened up in Pullman.
No way.
Yeah, so I started middle linebacker.
And what was that experience like?
It was
Were you-
it was great.
Yeah?
I actually blew my shoulder out that game.
Oh
but-
my gosh! Did you feel ready?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I felt as ready as I could be. I mean, I was green I really didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was out there running around hitting
Trying
bodies.
to smash somebody, looking for John Sheets.
Exactly. Yeah.
Randall used to, like, before big games, John Sheets actually had a decent little high school football career, but he was my age. So being a linebacker and 2 years younger than Randall used to just hammer on him pregame, like before we were playing other teams. That was his deal. Dangerous Minds would come on. Yeah, and he'd start dancing. He'd start Sheets, calling him out, like just getting ready, wanting to just wallop on this kid.
Sheets' eyes were about the size of golf balls. It was just hilarious. He's a big guy now, though. I heard.
Yeah, he's big. Yeah, I don't think you want to hit him now.
Yeah. That's all right.
So you had a successful run at WSU.
Yeah.
And then what it look like making the transition from there to the NFL?
You know, we my senior year we did well. We played in the Sun Bowl, beat Purdue, and then after that I went and trained down in Arizona for the combine, and put in good 6 weeks of hard work down there, and we went to the Senior Bowl, which is basically a job interview in front of all the NFL scouts and executives down in Mobile, Alabama, and played well down there, and after that went to the combine and tried to show out. And the combine is basically a job interview.
You balled out at the combine, though. Like you were ready for it. You deserved it, but you balled out at the combine.
Yeah, I didn't have any reservations about going there and performing well. I mean, that was kind of my thing. You guys were running? You were timing runs before you went. I've actually never asked you this. Before you knew your times before you got to. You didn't go to the combine thinking, let's see how fast I can run. You had a pretty good idea what you were running. We didn't run. Yeah, I mean. We didn't train like that. As far as a full-out 40 and getting
did you know what your 40 time was going to be when you were at the combine?
I had a pretty decent idea I would be running in.
What would you run it in?
I ran it in 4.45, 4.5, and anywhere in that range, depending on who you're talking to. But I was disappointed, actually. I was trying to get faster. The fastest I ever ran was 4.38 in my sophomore year in college. But I was a little lighter.
Flying.
I was like 2.30, 2.35.
What about the vertical? Did you know you had that unlocked?
I knew I was going to jump over 40.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was going to get 42 or whatever it was.
Yeah, or whatever it was.
Or whatever it was. Like he doesn't remember.
There's only one linebacker in the history of the league that's ever had a higher vertical leap than him at the combine.
No way.
Yeah. Still in the top 10.
Dang.
And it's been like 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting close. It feels like it. I definitely feel old.
So you balled out of the combine. Then what kind of offers did you get?
After that, there's an NFL draft.
Okay. Well,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously.
There's a process. So you're just ready to cut checks.
Just
I'm
cut
like
checks.
then,
Who's saying
I
what?
need to have
What
you in
did
the front
Nike-
office role.
Yeah. What did Nike bring you?
She should have been your booking
Exactly.
agent. I got replaced.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about
we
that
definitely
too.
was
have
a
to
good-
get to that.
Okay.
I'm putting Kaz. I'm putting Incognito. I'm putting everybody on blast.
You better bring somebody for incognito. He'll come after you.
Bringing you.
We'll open the front door
I'm
for
bringing
him.
Carolyn, actually.
She might
Yeah.
do something for you.
She protected me more than you have.
You're right about that.
So after the draft, though, did you think you were drafted where you were?
I felt like I was going to go. I was told anywhere from latter part of the first round to the third round was where I was predicted to go. But I didn't know I was going to go to Minnesota. I didn't interview with them at the combine. I didn't speak with them at all. I spoke with my linebacker coach there. Yeah, but it was just while doing drills, and I didn't know. I just
What team did you want?
I wanted
Any
a team with the highest draft pick. Yeah. I didn't care. I just wanted to get an opportunity.
Do you know the story about Beth Lane, one of our family friends? Her brother is a sports writer down in Bradenton. Do you know about that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, he actually went out ahead of the draft, had made mention of you and where you should be taken, and kind of everyone was like, thought it was a little bit out of, not a lot of people were expecting you to do as well as you did at the combine. So he was already kind of singing your praises coming into the combine, and then when the draft came along, he actually looked like he knew what he was talking about, but he had the drop because Beth Lane is like a mom to me, and we all grew up together. Yeah. So he'd been hearing about you for a while, but it kind of looks like he had a crystal ball when it came to where you were going to be drafted. I thought that was a cool story.
Interesting. Where did you predict?
I think he had you in the second round, and I think a lot of people think the third round. Mm-hmm. I think that was more common. If you were to think it was going to be second or third, I think most people thought it'd be in the third round.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I honestly wasn't paying that much attention because I was in the middle of college at that time. Like I started drinking for the first time about the time you were getting drafted, and so I was like,
a lot of things were real hazy for
blurry.
him around that time.
Me and Jerome, it was
Truth be told, I wasn't paying a lot of attention either. I was on my way to Moscow.
Oh, really?
Going to a movie. I was like, I can't watch this.
No.
Yeah, we went down to what's the Mexican restaurant across from Disney Morris in Pullman?
It's
And
gonna
we're working
bother
hard
me.
on this plug. Come back to it
I
because there's a lot
know.
of people that don't care.
Yeah. Anyway, we went there to a movie, and we were halfway to Moscow. Phone
Rancho.
rang. There you go. No.
Rancho. Yeah.
Was it Nuevo?
Yeah, Rancho Nievo.
Okay, there you go. All right.
Wow,
Yeah.
I'm
one of
really
you said
Spanish.
that totally wrong.
Rancho Nievo.
Anyway, yeah, we pulled around and went back and started
So,
celebrating.
did you hear it? Like, who told you first?
Got a phone call from Mike Tice. He was like, "Hey, this is
The
Mike
coach.
Tice from he was the head coach at the time for the Vikings, and just want to let you know we selected you in the second round, 6th pick." And I was like,
What was that moment like?
"Oh well, I had my brother in the car, and we basically got out and damn near bear hugged each
Lost
other to
your
death."
minds.
Yeah.
Oh, my
yeah,
gosh,
it was
how
a good
cool.
experience. My mom and dad were in town, and so we went back to my apartment.
You
It's
told
funny,
them?
the crazy part about it is I was going to kill my roommate. So my roommate Brian, at the time, they called my apartment first to find me, and he's like, "Oh, he's not here," and hung up the phone. And my mom was like, "Who's that?" He's like, "I have no idea."
Oh
And
my! They're calling from the
They're
draft.
calling from the
Oh, my
draft to my
gosh,
apartment to let me know what's
stop.
going on.
Like today,
Yeah.
that would be a moment. Like there'd be cameras in the room. Everyone would have cell phones out, waiting to hear the
yeah.
news, and
Yeah.
Lenore
Waiting
would
for
just
the
be,
phone call.
"Don't know who you're looking for,"
That's exactly what he did. And they're like,
because it was a bill collector.
the credit card company was
Yeah.
calling me. So I got back and it's like, my mom told me the story, and I looked at Brian and he goes, "Sorry, man." And I had a cell phone at that time, and he didn't even bother calling me or anything. Hey, no, somebody just called for you. So I had a little bit of grudge against him for a little while.
See, he was thinking rounds 3 or 4 too.
Yeah, he wasn't prepared for the
Yeah.
phone call that early.
Nah, it's a
Yeah.
little premature for all that. No,
Man.
that's funny.
Okay, so what was your NFL career? When did you guys kind of reconnect around this time?
It was when you were in Minnesota. It was like I was still doing like home theater installs and car. I was in the car stereo industry, as we've mentioned a couple of times.
Yep.
And but we were hanging out before that.
But how did it get to the point where you were his fake manager or
after
fake?
years
That came
down the-
later.
yeah.
That came
Okay.
later. Yeah, yeah. That was Isaiah Kazavinsky is the one that like put that on, or that came up with that
Yeah.
idea a little bit on the fly. We'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah, so every time I was in Pullman, I would go back and Jake was working at like Good Guys or something like that. And
Yeah, it was good, guys.
I'd always stop in and be like, what's the stereo?
We kind
deal
of
the week?"
daydream
Yeah.
about like what you wanted, what you get. You would kind of like post out. We would hang out for a while.
Yeah, I come by and we chop it up and catch up and then
Never bought anything.
didn't have any money to buy
Yeah,
anything.
no.
I was like, hey, how do I blow these speakers out so I can go back and get a free one?
Yeah. I was teaching him how to work the warranty scams. Yeah, I was hustling. Always have.
Oh
been.
yeah, you always had the side gig for sure.
Yeah.
And so and then obviously after I got drafted, I think we'd catch up in touch. One time we were out and about that off season. I think it was like my first or second year in, and we were at like Belltown. Or where were we at? Belltown? Yeah, I think it was Belltown. And got a tap on the shoulder. Turn around. Who was there? Jake with Jerome and a few other people. And we just,
I mean, Belltown back in the day. I mean, probably still today. I'm just too old to go hang out there on the weekends. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from then on, we just kind of always been kicking it.
Yeah, you were coming home during you'd have to go back for workouts, but you'd
Right.
come back in on like a Wednesday or Thursday, and we'd party Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Yeah, and then fly
you'd
out.
Fly out. Yeah.
Saturday night or Sunday morning. Yeah.
Randall's famous for like starting fights and never hitting anybody or never having anything really happen.
just talks a big game, then gets
yeah.
on a plane and goes back to his cushy life.
and we're not gonna like even go. We'll go there like at a much on Randall's second visit. We'll talk about some of that because there's gonna be shareholders and other people. But we were kids then. But
Yeah. We were young and dumb, but I know how to provoke people.
Yes, he does.
It doesn't
I
surprise me
I
at
know
all.
how to punch people.
I'm glad you guys have matured
Yeah,
over
we've
the years.
grown up, but we was young.
Yeah.
Nobody was really
We
getting
was
hurt.
young. We was
Did I
young.
say we was young?
We was young.
I'm getting. You can tell I was getting nervous.
Okay, so then how many years were you in the NFL?
I played 6 years.
And how did you end up? What did you do when you were done? When you retired?
When I was retired, well, I kind of
I tried to talk him into playing in Miami one more year.
Yeah,
I wanted to run with the booking agent thing in Miami hard.
I gave it up just mostly because of injuries. I just couldn't sustain the level of play I wanted to play, and just wasn't going to be practical. I did take a trip down to Miami and turned down that contract. But
when did you and Carolyn get married? When you were in the league?
No, we got married 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've been almost 6 years.
Nice.
I remember because Carter wasn't quite
7
born
years.
yet. Yeah, it's creeping up on 7.
Keep creeping on 7 years. Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah. So we sorry, I don't want to debo
go for it.
the sentimental marriage conversation. It was lovely. It was a
Well,
beautiful wedding.
it was just...
A bunch of Irish people, a ton of drinking. It was fantastic. The night before was amazing.
That was
I had so much fun the night before.
My head was killing.
Oh man,
we got married.
Randall's mom is Irish, like through and through. So they came out in waves, and like they were ready
to turn
they
it up.
were
Huh?
Irish.
Yeah, we had a good night.
That's
Yeah.
fun.
We had 2 good nights.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny.
Okay, so then after you retire, were you?
What was my segue?
Yeah, how'd you hook up with Jake?
I tried to catch him. Actually, before retirement, I had. So this all comes back to Carolyn and Randall, because the first time I smoked cannabis was supposed to be with Carolyn.
Right.
And we were Randall was still playing, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so he wasn't dabbling in that. And I was talking about how, I was in my late 20s and had not smoked it. And Carolyn, me too. So I was like, would you do it if I, kind of played that game? And she was like, she committed. Like she said she would do it.
I was shocked.
I couldn't believe it. And she said she would. So I was like, I just thought, how often do you find 2 people that are almost 30 years old that have never tried it? And that would be a cool night. It was Halloween night. Tony shows up in a blow up
Dick and Balls
costume at the door. Like he caught wind on a cell phone that we were going to do it. He showed up with a vaporizer, a pipe, a bunch of weed.
He came over the Tacoma Bridge, was ready to go.
Now, how would we describe Tony very briefly to our listeners?
Zack Galifianakis.
Okay, but with like a little bit more swagger.
Yeah. But just a guy that just like chases his dreams, does what he wants to do. Twin brother is also one of our closest friends. Like we've known him forever.
Okay, so
Super
he shows up.
Shows up with the weed because he's the cannabis guy. He's actually the guy that introduced me to the guy that ended up leading us kind of into this industry. But Tony shows up. Carolyn kind of backs out at the 11th hour, and Randall's telling me, "Oh, you got to pull it into your lungs and swallow it." And that's where I said on the last podcast, it didn't really seem like it did anything to me. They were there, and so fast forward a little bit. This is like 2007 ish.
Yep.
And I came to Raonall and I was like, "Oh, we got to make a run at this pot thing." And
this is after you went to the doctor. You had like a.
This was. I think it was
decided?
before that. I didn't have an authorization yet. I wanted to get it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, you were on your way either I believe you were on your way to Florida.
Yeah, I was leaving. I was leaving town.
Yep.
That's part of the reason I came back. I never really told very many people that's why I came back. I just had a friend in Florida say, "Oh, when it comes to legalization, we got to be at the forefront of this thing."
Right.
And I started looking into it. I'm just going to go home. It's going on right now. And so, we may have already had the conversation a little bit, but I was kind of kicking it around a little bit. And I went to Raonall, and we were doing your house downstairs.
Yep.
And I was looking. He's got this room behind he's got a giant, amazing like bar area, and I helped him build a theater. I helped him. He paid for it. I picked the stuff out, and I helped him put it together. But it's
amazing. My
concierge,
my handyman, the whole nine.
Yeah, it was cool. We had a lot of fun with that. And so he had this like side room that was just kind of like an empty area. And I thought, well, this, we'll slap some lights in here and this will be our first grow. And we kicked it around. We were down there.
We were talking about putting some venting up and out. And,
oh my gosh.
It would have been a good spot.
Back in the day.
Yeah. We had a whole plot. Basically, his winery was going to be, or the wine cellar was going to be this cool grow. Carolyn shredded that up like it was nobody's business.
And you guys didn't have kids yet, right?
Oh, no. This was just pure
we were
principle.
all just young.
Yeah. I am not going to be affiliated with that in any sense of fashion.
Especially at that time.
And I was kind of like, I was a little offended by it because I thought she knows I wouldn't be. I'm not like crazy about it either, unless there was an opportunity there.
Right? Yeah, you saw the angle.
Yeah.
So,
we both
so
did.
that so the kibosh was put on that.
But he was still playing. Technically, that was one of the things that
probably wouldn't have been a good look, if something would have gone down,
Because
Yeah.
I could have done. It's like Jay-Z owning the Nets. I could have done everything, but if we got popped, it's
Exactly. Yeah.
ESPN.
Bad pup for me.
Yeah.
In my
St.
career
Louis
in the
Rams
Flames.
linebacker
Yeah.
Raonall Smith arrested
Well, and
this
even
morning
now,
for-
it's
Yeah.
still,
Taboo.
a struggle. Yeah.
Yeah.
People are getting kicked out of the league for it.
Okay, so then what was the
Bring us-
timeline?
reel it in.
After that?
No, I went on. So I went ahead
You
with what I was
forged
doing.
ahead and said,
Yeah.
you do you. I'm
Yeah.
going
Yeah,
for
I mean,
this.
I was all about it, but I told him I have to pass at this moment.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna.
It was like your classic story, like the poor kid pitching to his buddy who finally got put on a little bit. And like, I got an idea.
Which I was fully on board with, but at the same time,
You're like, I got a real job, though.
I knew where my bread was buttered, and I also knew I needed to come home and put my head down on the pillow and not
Yeah.
get it chopped off. You know?
Yeah. Smart man.
So I went off and I went ahead and did it
did?
and just started doing things. And then like a year or two later, we were actually at Kyle and Savannah's wedding. Kyle is the twin to Tony that we were talking about. Yep. And I pulled up in that green Jag, and you were like, "What's going on with you?
Yeah.
Like you must like hefty car repair bills."
Right.
I was like, "Well," he's like, "What are you doing with a money green Jag?" I said, "Well, the cannabis industry turned out all right."
Yeah, you're doing pretty well at that.
That was a good time. That era was a lot of fun. It was all it was a lot of cash.
Yeah, you were out there balling.
It was
So
fun.
was that when you guys kind of started talking about it again?
Well, we
Was
remained close.
Yeah,
I mean,
we
were.
we
Yeah.
had been talking all along, and then there were other people there in the industry at the time, and so I was picking people's brains, and
Yeah.
I
Was Carolyn warming up a little bit at this
Oh
point?
no, no.
Carolyn still doesn't know.
I moonlight in the CIA too.
Oh, that kind, beautiful woman.
So so that was what year was that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember the year, but anyway.
2012-ish.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so during that time, while I was playing, you had asked me what I was doing after I got done playing. So while I was playing, I kind of set the framework for to get involved in the real estate game. So I was doing property development and things of that nature. So I had done that from the time I retired after my stint with the Rams, and was doing it for a number of years. And during that time, my partner and I had picked up a shell, and we were looking for opportunities, and some of it was going to be either in the tech industry or
No, you're fine. But a shell, like it was a publicly traded company.
Correct.
That's essentially a shell, a company that's ready to go, looking for an asset to park in it.
Yeah, so we acquired one of those through a deal that we had negotiated for ourselves, and we were pretty happy about it, but we weren't sure exactly where we wanted to launch it, whether it be in
Real estate, yeah.
technology, and 'cause some of it's saturated and high startup costs and whatnot.
Right.
Well, Zack, who is now one of our partner, also a partner of ours, had a friend in the industry, the cannabis industry, and Zack is a pretty conservative guy for the most part.
Yeah.
And I
About
was
10
like,
years older than us.
Yeah.
Mercer Island white guy.
Right, exactly, yeah. And I was pretty taken aback by it. I was like, wow, I didn't know that was even an option.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I've got a friend who's dabbling in it and had kind of an eye on, had an idea. So I was like, let's take a meeting. Knowing full well I had some other opportunities to explore. So we took a meeting, and they had an idea. Good idea.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't going to pencil immediately.
Right.
And so while we were at that meeting, I literally sent Jake a text because we were right down.
I was
During the
I was at
meeting?
the studio on Seattle, right down on First Ave.
Yeah.
Oh,
I got a
yeah?
text saying, "Hey, are you prepared to have a conversation about the business?"
Yeah. So I had previously reached out to him and let him know about the show, and
Yeah.
and kind of, kind
You
of
were
gave him-
elusive about it a little bit. I think you were more just kind of like kicking
I was kicking
tires in a
tires,
way. It
yeah.
was just like, what is he getting at here?
Yeah, I really wasn't forthcoming on my idea with you. But anyway, so we went on after the lunch. We went over to the studio and we sat down for 5 hours, and Jake spoke for 4 hours and 45 minutes.
That sounds about right. That sounds just about right. Uh-huh.
And we left the meeting and we looked at each other on the curb right outside of the street, and like, this is an opportunity we can't pass.
Can't pass that.
Yeah, we just had to do it. So over the next month, we put the framework, the foundation of the core group we have now together, and we basically hit the ground running from that point on. You know?
And when you told Carolyn this, was she on
Oh,
board?
initially I didn't tell Carolyn anything. I wanted to see where it went first.
Yeah, and you guys
Yeah.
knew, okay, this is the direction we want to go. Jake seems like the safe bet here. How does this work?
Yeah, I mean, we knew we had an extensive array of knowledge
Yeah.
just from the fact that he'd been in the medical game for a long time, and he had developed a lot of industry contacts and had a good overall plan of where he wanted to go in the industry, and it
Right.
aligned with what we wanted to do with on the Pubco side of things.
Cool.
And just routine talking. You know, and
It actually
developing
wasn't. It wasn't like
ideas.
total honeymoon. Like the idea of working with one of my best friends was really exciting to me, but it was like the business first for sure. There
Oh,
was a
yeah.
whole period like we were negotiating, you know, on the other side of the table, and it got nasty a few times.
It did, yeah. It got contentious, and it got to the point where almost like you forgot your friends because you're looking out for your business interests, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to walk away from being a friend and making sure that they're getting taken care of.
And I think we both had partners that were in our each side of the business that were a little. And Zack is. I mean, I work with Zack more than anybody right now, and I wouldn't want to do business without him. He's amazing, but at the time, he's a little sharky. And my business partners were the exact same way, and so it was a little contentious where we would sometimes be able to reach out to each other and say, "Man, this is harder than I thought it was going to be," and we would kind of powwow a little bit.
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, we both knew we had to go back to our own camp.
Oh, that
And be
kind of sucks.
It was weird.
Yeah, it was kind of like trading war stories and like little secrets and being mediators, but at the same time being arch enemies. You know,
Yeah, or there was a couple times where you were like, "Hey, that part I didn't know. I didn't necessarily know that was the angle that we were coming with."
Yeah.
And
there were some negotiation
Interesting.
tactics that were not really clear.
Yeah.
On both sides, I think.
I think it was good business.
It was.
But it was just that. It was. I actually.
I'm glad it happened because I think it allowed everybody to kind of figure out how each other worked, and it developed trust and relationships.
I remember saying to Zack, if we're on the same team, I need you to do this to everybody that comes to the table. But we're trying to create a team together. Like, you have to stop doing this to me because I've been really fair on our end and balanced. And we ended up right where it should have been. But I think we pushed the boundaries a little bit before we got there. And it was a little bit unnecessary, but it also set the tone for, not that Zack's not, and for everyone that's listening, he's our COO. He's a big part of our operations, obviously. But he's not a predatory guy to do business with, but he will look after the company or himself first and kind of holds that line, and he'll even push the boundary a little bit sometimes, which is exactly what you want in a business partner. But man, when you're negotiating,
when you're negotiating, it can be very frustrating, especially when you have a previous relationship with the folks you're dealing with. Because there's a fine line, to
absolutely
to toe.
Yeah.
You
That
don't
would
want to
be
be
tough.
you don't want to be disrespectful, but at the same time, you don't want to get taken to the cleaners.
We also we have one thing, we've had some really heated exchanges, you and I. Always,
yeah.
Even at my bachelor party, you almost broke my leg and drowning me, and it was brutal.
Yeah, we've battled, but we've never come to blows. He's like my brother. We've definitely provided damage to one another, but never.
Well, it's the friends you can fight with, and 5 minutes later, be like, all right, let's go get some
and I have
lunch.
no business fighting Randall at all.
I meant
Yeah, but no,
just
I
getting in
remember.
arguments.
I remember at my bachelor party, we ended up
was a
wrestling on
hematoma.
the beach, and I remember thinking and I
Your
just
first bachelor party.
yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
And I was wrestling with Chris and just treated him like my little brother, tossed him around, and next thing I know, Randall's next to me. He just got done wrestling around. It's always lighthearted at first,
He had
like
a little
boys
liquid
do.
courage.
Yeah, and I came up from behind, and he just twisted me in half and had me literally drowning me. And I came up angry. That's the closest I ever came to taking a swing.
Yeah,
at you. I was really
yeah.
angry, but it was partly because in the middle of it, something happened to my leg. Like I don't know what happened.
That's the first time I've ever seen something like that.
It looked like a softball inside my knee.
Ew.
Everyone thought my leg was broken. Everyone came running over, and I'm like, look what you did to me. And I was mostly mad because he was literally drowning me for far too long underwater.
Okay, let me ask you this question. Both of you.
Yeah.
Randall, you go first. What's your favorite thing about working with Jake?
Wow, there's a lot of favorite things, but I think it's the pure honesty but the honesty.
Okay.
The pure honesty that you get when you ask him a question or if you ask him opinion, he doesn't mince words at all.
What's the hardest thing about
Same
working?
thing.
You get a little different treatment though, because I know that you'll take it. There have been times when we've been really angry with each other at work, and I've come home and Susan, even on the phone, sometimes she's like, "Really, babe?" Like, it's not everyone gets that kind of treatment, but it's because of the relationship.
Yeah.
We get away. We would get away with a lot of it.
So what's your favorite thing about working with Raonall?
I mean, part of it is just fun. Like, we're quick to laugh, but I also think Randall doesn't have to be explained anything twice. And I think that's the most frustrating thing about him is there are times when I look around and think, "Psh, if you're number 2 or 3 in the company, you're a number 1 anywhere else you go." And sometimes some of the defaulting to me because I've got more experience in the space, and I think it was originally my company, so when everything came together, there's definitely a little like hierarchy that sometimes feels weird. But the fact that we can just talk to each other direct and shove a table at each other every now and again and shout.
Was it hard to make the transition coming from? I know that once you retired, you kind of already had a plan in place to kind of set yourself up, financially and work wise. Was it hard making the transition coming from such a unique job playing football to more of the corporate world?
The corporate world, well, football, as you know, or as maybe you don't know, it's very
don't.
structured.
Yes.
So from the time I've been 17 years old, I've been told what to do, when to do it, what time, when you need to be there, and if you don't,
you're either rewarded or punished for doing exactly that.
Exactly. It's almost like you're a dog, If
Right.
you're rewarded for doing the right thing, and if you're not, there's corporal punishment type of thing. And so you get within the mindset while playing for all those years of being in kind of a schedule.
Yeah.
And you are very regimented in how you do things. So I almost came to the point where I just was very structured in how I wanted things done and became very organized and very time efficient with my time. So moving into the corporate world, I knew there was a goal and there were steps to make that goal. So I just basically followed that same kind of blueprint into the corporate world. But then moving into the cannabis side of things, it's a complete 180. There's a lot of moving parts.
Ambiguity all the time. Change is the only constant.
Yeah, change is the only constant.
Yeah.
So that was difficult for me, being a guy that had, there were benchmarks and goals that needed to be met. And sometimes you're not able to do that for things that you can't control.
Right.
And that was the hardest part for me, by always having a moving target and, trying to do the best to reach that target.
Yeah.
But it could be over here one day and over here the next day. And that was the frustrating part
I think
for me.
that'd be frustrating for anybody in any career, but coming from such a structured, regimented job and then coming to that would be weird.
Yeah, and we had this discussion today. We had some investors, and they asked me, "What's the schedule like as a college athlete?" And I was like, when you wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and, you go to weight training, you go to class from 9 to 1. After that, you get a quick lunch. You go to meetings from 2 to 3, practice from 3 to 5, dinner.
That's it.
Training table. And then you go to either a lab or some more study, and then you do that 5 days a week, and then you play on Saturdays, and you do that, and then you move on to the next level, and it's 7 days a week, and you do that for what amounts to be 15 years.
Yeah,
you get stuck in some ways.
Was there ever a time? Was there a scariest moment for you playing in the NFL or college, where you got hurt or where you were like a hit that just knocked you out? Was there ever a scary?
My first concussion I ever had was in playing professionally.
Yeah.
I never received one, or was technically considered
what's called
one.
your eggs scrambled.
Yeah.
In high school, we rarely ever talked about concussions. I remember 2 or 3 times, and that was because an ambulance needed to come.
Right.
Dang.
Yeah.
Right. So, over the years, I've been educated on what a concussion actually is. And it's not just definitely not because you lost consciousness or, you can't remember your name.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of subconcussive hits that, that can be considered concussions. But my first one was probably, we were playing the Saints in New Orleans, and I got hit blindsided by a tight end on a crossing route. And I couldn't remember what day of the week it was, except for the cheerleaders were walking by in some
That
some
woke you up a little bit?
Well, Halloween outfits, and I was like, oh, Halloween, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And that was probably the scariest thing because I didn't know how to deal with it. I know how to deal with a bum hamstring or an ankle or a broken shoulder, but not being able to think coherently and having headaches and not having problems sleeping and all the things that came with that. That was the scariest thing because there's no blueprint. There was no blueprint for me.
What's your opinion with all the ALS talking and the concussion talk in the NFL?
CTE issues,
CTE, yeah. What kind of do you have an opinion on it? What can you say?
Yeah, that's a question. I sort of know the answer, but at the same time, like, I've never put you on the spot and said, what's your opinion on the CTE issue? What are your goals to find out in cannabis? I mean, obviously we know there's a lot of great indicators, but what's your goal in this really?
My goal would love to see, a CTE type of brain scan that comes out for the living, to see if somebody who...
Because you were asked to donate your brain.
Correct. Yeah. Back in 2006,
one of the first. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember at the time you saying, if I do that, I won't get another contract.
Right. So I went to a charity golf concert event in New York for Zack and
former Seahawk,
played for the Rams, and his roommate and one of his good friends, Chris Nowinski, wrote a book on brain trauma, and he has started the Boston University CTE legacy. I mean, he's very prevalent in the traumatic brain injury.
Very well known in that space.
And so Kaz was telling me about the book. One day we're coming back from a game. He's like, "You need to read this book." And he looked at it.
I would bet Kaz has had dozens of concussions.
I would imagine, yeah. I mean, he played like a wild man, and
which is why I was on his mind. Obviously, he's a smart guy.
Right. So I had, like Jake was saying, we had the option to donate our brains, and I had to pass on that at the moment because there was guys who did do that, and they found themselves out of a job. A year or two later, after it became known that they had given their brains up for study.
Dang.
So to be able to know if you could get a scan that would basically determine whether you had the early onset or whatnot, whether it be Parkinson's, dementia, CTE.
Well, they don't want your family
Depression.
members suing them later on down the line.
And it hits even closer to home. I mean, I have a teammate that I played with in college that I played against in the pros, Steve Gleason, who won the Congressional Medal of Honor, has ALS, and I don't know if he would say it, but I would imagine if
it didn't help.
Playing the game of football, and I know Steve had some concussions throughout his career, both in college and in the pros. I think it definitely was something that helped bring his symptoms maybe progress a little faster than if he would have just
if
never
nothing
been
else
hit.
it did absolutely.
He would have stuck. He was a two-sport athlete in college, and I think if he would have played baseball, he probably never would have had the issues that he had.
Well, what was shocking to me with Tyler Alinsky, with his brain scan, someone so young already having like those signs and
it gets even younger than that. There's kids in Pop Warner in high school who have been diagnosed with CTE, and they have played
during development stages.
Yeah,
oh
played 1 or 2 years of maybe 7th or 8th grade football and didn't play again, and committed suicide years later. The parents had their brains analyzed, and there's tau protein in the brain of a 65-year-old, which is crazy to think about. There's so many other guys out there who played 10, 12, 15 years who are walking around with no idea what's going on.
I think the game of football is, we've talked about this, Susan, a lot. Like there could come a point in 10 to 15 years where it's just almost socially unacceptable to be embracing something that's causing so much trauma to people. And I know it's like a darker side of NFL, and I'm like, I love the league.
Yeah,
man,
you love the game.
I love it. And I'm extremely passionate about it. And it's some of my favorite memories come from football. I think it helped shape me as a person. A lot of the discipline you talk about, I think a lot of people think back on high school football and think, okay, guys, it's actually hard when your friend went on to play and do what you did, to even talk about it, because it seems silly. It would be like a friend that was a singer in middle school and did the national anthem, at a hockey game, and that's all they ever did. It would be kind of embarrassing to sit next to you and talk about I was a singer, but I think it shaped a lot of the discipline and the person that I am today. And I still carry a lot of those lessons. Even Levenseller talking me out of quitting as a sophomore, knowing that he didn't know whether I was going to grow 4 or 5 inches and put on some weight and actually take it seriously. But he just kind of coaxed me, said, listen, this is an important time in your life. You don't have a father figure. You know, Mike Susan was a guy that was much older than me. He said, I did the same thing for him. I talked him out of his backyard. He was hiding in the sticker bushes and didn't want to play. And he wasn't very fast, wasn't the greatest athlete, but he was a captain. He was
productive, yeah.
He was the same age as you, wasn't he?
He was a year before, grade before
Older.
me. Yep.
Yeah. But it's just a really good, a guy that went on and did some good things just in high school football. Yeah. It's not a big deal, but I had the same thing. I had a great high school football career after that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, and I think sports in general, obviously, there's so much that you get out of it. That just character building, pushing through something that's hard. We've had this conversation.
You can tell
times.
who didn't play any team sports.
Yeah. So
we know some. No, I think team sports builds character. Inner fortitude, all the things that do serve people well in chasing their dreams in life.
Yeah.
Whether it be running their own company or working for a Fortune 500, whatever it might be.
Well, just like you two little dreamers over here.
We are dreamers. I
love it.
I think
we're working hard at this for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. We used to sit around and hatch up ideas. We had a couple of other business opportunities we almost did, and I think all of it really did lead to this. I mean, it just seemed like everything was in front of us. It seemed like the best idea ever, and I think they would have been successful. Yeah. But then whatever reason, it didn't line up. Even with cannabis in the first pass, I really thought man, you're gonna let your girlfriend get in the way of this? We were going to Vegas and hanging out with perennial all pros, and it just felt like we were on top of the world. And what you decide is what we do.
Right.
And the fact that you had it said a lot about your relationship with Carolyn, to be able to kind of push off what we both knew and ultimately proved to be a big deal. Yeah. And I can't imagine what it would have been like if I would have had you and a little bit of financial support in that era.
I've told Carolyn the same thing.
I said, my Lord.
This conversation would be completely...
It's just because the runway, we would have been so much further. We would have been off the ground before, 3-4 years ahead of time. And I was already 6-7 years ahead of the curve for the most part. Not but we
would have implemented some of the ideas that we're talking about today far sooner than we are. Obviously we're in a good path now, but
Well, and I have to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that when the second opportunity came up, I told Carolyn, I go, this is not. The opportunity knocks twice, and I'm not going to miss it this time.
So when did Carolyn come around and be willing to jump on board a little bit?
Oh, it took a while. You know, it's always been like taboo in her eyes for some reason.
I think culturally, that's just where we've been.
And it wasn't more so because of people did it. It was more so that it was going to be a vocation. Something that we were going to hang our hats on, and something that we were going to put all of our efforts behind to make it grow.
Right. Every conversation you have with that mindset back then. Even just a few years ago, you knew if I do this, I have to wear that scarlet letter.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to compare it to anything as dramatic as that, but you do have to know when they ask me what I do, how do I answer that? Even on an application, yep. All those things you have to think through, and it's a lot. It's just heavy to think every time, or PTA meetings and stuff at school. And what do you do when your kid's 15? And when do you start talking about it? Those are all things that weigh heavy on the mind. And then if Carolyn doesn't get to see the day-to-day and doesn't see really, not that it was this empire of things, but it was at the time, it was so far ahead. And in a lot of ways, it still is. I think to see that every day, if you're not at the office for a couple of days, you kind of come back, and after that first day back, you go home going, damn, we really have an incredible amount of, I don't think anyone knows how many things we have going on. They can't possibly know.
I mean, I can barely keep up with what you guys going on. But
I got to a point where I have to make a conscious decision when I come home, whether it's do I even bring this up, because it's going to take longer to explain.
Yeah. What is that thing?
I definitely feel like sometimes I go home and there's things I just don't say just because it's too long to explain, and I feel like.
And the stakes are high. Some of it's this could be an absolute game. We're talking about $1 billion transition here to maybe it doesn't happen, and that happens in 6 months or in 1 year. But I've never lost any sleep over a deal that didn't go the way we wanted, an opportunity that didn't shake out, because
on the next one.
It's there is another one. There's not many times. It's not that they're guarantees, but. There's another scratch ticket, and maybe not a lotto ticket that's a guaranteed winner, but there's a scratch ticket that's got a high degree of likelihood of paying out.
And that was what was enticing to Zack and I when we first came on was, you can miss a deal in a real estate play or on a technology play, And there might not be another one for, 6 months, 7 months,
Yeah.
where in this industry, it comes on almost every day. Something comes across our plate where we're like,
And
you
I
know
feel like
what?
there's a lot of fronting in this.
There's a ton of
like,
fronting, yeah.
where
yeah.
you don't. It's
There's a lot of faking it till you make it.
and it's like I think that's what makes you guys stand out is the fact, like Jake's brutal honesty, and the fact if you can't do something, you're gonna say you can't, but usually you can and you deliver. I think that's what makes it so you need to see.
And that's why we
people
work well
who-
together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also sometimes being really hungry for a new deal or a new opportunity and having to let stuff go, or just having the patience to say that would be a quick grab. I mean, there's always
Yeah.
money that comes along or an opportunity that's there that would make life easier. And I think even the last year has been a great example of that, where there's probably 25 things we could have done that would just be go get a bunch of money, throw it at a handful of projects, but continuing to kind of stay the course and just do what we know is best for everybody long term. Even though it's really hard, sometimes there's times when payroll's just going to be damn near impossible, and to know that like everybody's on board and the whole team is there to make it something much bigger than this. And I mean, we're running around with folks today that are doing projects where we were flat out able to tell somebody, if you don't come to this project with $3 to $5 million, we really don't have a conversation to be had. Like, you told me that 10 years ago that I would say those words to a professional who's made a fortune in their lifetime.
You get laughed at.
Yeah. It's just crazy how much things evolve. But even today, like being able or making the choice to kind of wait out the next deal and make sure the opportunity is an absolute fit for us is a luxury that it's not without sacrifice, but it's a great spot to be.
Yeah. So circling back to your question, when did I actually? So laying out the kind of the blueprint for where we're at, how Carolyn came on board, basically kind of just said, hey, this is where we're at. This is what we're trying to do, and here are the steps we're trying to get to. We're going to get there. Obviously, it's going to be baby steps initially, and then we're going to take leaps and bounds. And after I was able to explain that and she's a very visual person, and had to, basically set it all out and let her see it and touch it and feel it, and then she gets the concept. Because I mean, saying something,
it's hard to explain.
It
like,
really
what
is.
you guys
It's
want
very
to do
convoluted.
is not. It's not necessarily linear, and it's not something you can explain in a sentence or two.
No.
So
Well, it's like if I said, hey, if I invest this much money in you, how many albums are you going to sell?
right.
Well, I don't know. Where is the market at right now? And
Totally.
It's fragmented. Everything's fragmented.
It really is. And at the same time, though, when you say, well, I'm the only one that knows this package of information, it's not that we're better than. I mean, I think we all believe we're better than everyone else. But at the end of the day, like, you have to look right now is who actually has the information and the skill set to do what they're trying to do. I think there are very few people that are doing that, and like not trying to call out Tilray every episode or go after them. But I do think there are times when they patch things up with money, and that's okay. Like, I think a lot of most, if not all businesses do that at times. I think for us, we really do have an extremely unique view. We have access to, we haven't even tapped into your resources, Brendan McKenna's resources.
Yeah, there's a lot on the table.
On the Native American side. I mean, we've tapped into it, but we haven't actually taken any of that to the table.
Pursued it to the levels that it needs to.
Yeah, I mean, there's opportunities galore. We have investors that probably we won't announce who they are because they wouldn't want us to. But over time, when they make a career change and they come out of the shadows of what we're doing, we'll be able to put us in places we probably don't even have the ability to wrap our minds around right now. Yeah.
The opportunities are endless at the moment.
So, wrapping up here, ladies.
We're not done.
It's been really cool for me to see the sides of your friendship and your working relationship, and I think all the things you said are true about what's going on with your company. But I think at the heart of it, it's the passion that you guys both have and the commitment to your team and to where you want to go. That has been fun for me to watch, and then just see you guys have the history you do. It's pretty entertaining, is what I'm saying. So I think Randall was a pretty successful first guest. Any last words to the listeners? Any advice for those young kids that shouldn't be listening to this that want to play football someday?
We didn't swear very much.
No, I'm very proud of you guys.
Yeah.
Kept it pretty PC.
Yeah, we didn't talk about a lot of the inappropriateness.
Last words. I don't know. Follow your dreams.
Last words is probably,
Follow your dreams. Get out of here.
I'd say buy Greenlink stock, send your friends, send your family. Is that promotional activity? I don't think so. This is our podcast.
Right.
We're not forcing
we might be the
anyone to
only
listen to
3 people that ever hear this.
Probably.
So true.
So
All right.
take that, SEC, FINRA.
Okay. And hey, thanks for listening. Next up, we'll have something cool.
Susan's pregnant. She's ready to go to
I'm
bed.
like, and it is time to go to sleep.
Randall and I are we're gonna find ourselves under the influence, and we'll do podcast 2.0.
We can put those in the bloopers.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. You can find our podcast, Under the Influence with the Georges, on Apple Podcasts. If you don't have that, you can find the link on my website at susangmusic.com. And keep us posted. Ask us questions. Let us know what you want to hear.
Yeah, send us some feedback. If you got somebody that you think would be a great guest, or if you think we brought a guest on that's a total dud, let us know.